What's up, Urban Acolyte family? My name is Prince, and I am one of you, so may the Force be with us all. This is another episode of Star Wars Chats, and in this episode, I'm going to discuss Adam Driver's recent interview with Larry King. I'm like been talking about Carrie Fisher in the last video that I recorded, so I like keep wanting to give everybody's last name Fisher. I'm gonna keep that in there because I don't do outtakes. So anyway, Adam Driver had an interview with Larry King, and they discussed the Kylo Ren character and the development of the character and the changes that we're going to see in episode 8. So let me read his statement, and then let's open that up for discussion because I want to weigh in on my thoughts on what Adam Driver had to say. All right. So when asked by Larry King, what's one aspect about Kylo Ren you're excited for fans to see in the next film? Driver answered, I think maybe this is such a general answer, but humanity. Even though it's very much a blockbuster movie, there was no taking for granted, and that we were forced to be general. There was a lot of plot points that we knew were operating in the first one that we get to explain more in the second one to make both of them make sense. But they do kind of feel socially active to me. And George Lucas originally, a lot of Star Wars was in response to Vietnam. And a lot of what I remember talking about with JJ and Ryan was this idea of terrorism, and two sides being morally justified to behave however they wanted to get whatever they thought was absolutely correct. Right? So, if you really want to go back and watch like one of my first videos where I think it was my non-spoiler review of The Force Awakens. It was right after I got home from seeing it. Wow, that was last year when I had like no subscribers and no one was watching me other than my 175 subs that I had this time a year ago. I said the first thing I said, and when people say that they don't like The Force Awakens, it was a rehash of A New Hope. It was this and that. Look, all of these movies are a piece of art, and you're entitled to feel whatever way you want to feel about them. But me personally, I think when I hear that, I think that you're like really unoriginal. You're not really looking deep. And that's not like a slight or an insult. It's just my honest opinion, right? Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. This is what I had to say. I said, look, this movie, yes, it does have some similarities to the past movies. It has callbacks. It has echoes. But this is the thing. J.J. Abrams is building a sandbox, right? And the sandbox is made of components from the original saga, right? We're picking up from where this story left off. And that's not to say, oh, we hate the prequels. It's just, this is the story. This is the sandbox we're creating. And this sandbox is built on elements that exist in the original saga. Now, the original saga is set up by the things in the prequels. So when we talk about, oh, J.J. Abrams and Disney, they hate the prequels. Well, you can't have the original saga without the prequels, right? That story sets the story of how Anakin became Darth Vader, how the Empire came to power. All of that is necessary because you can't have a rebellion if you don't have an empire. You can't have Luke Skywalker redeeming the Father, going on his heroic journey if there's no Vader. There's no Jedi getting wiped out, in Order 66. So everything that we see in episode 7, this sandbox is built on elements from the original saga, which need the prequels to support them. If that makes sense, right? If you're thinking philosophy, theology, one of those deep thinkers, then you get exactly what I'm saying, right? So when we start talking about things in The Force Awakens, in episode 8, episode 9, they're all built on this sandbox. They have to exist within this world that J.J. Abrams created in The Force Awakens. And that was the whole point of the movie. This is the sandbox. Now we can start to play. We can start to play in the sandbox in episode 8. We can start to learn more about Finn, more about Rey, more about Kylo Ren, more about Poe Dameron, what Luke Skywalker's been up to, what the Resistance was doing in the 5 years between Bloodline, when Leia started the Resistance, and the present time in the film that took place a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, right? So getting back to this, right? There's this idea of terrorism, right? And think about what is the current state of the world, especially if you're in the United States, where 60% of my subscribers are. It might be more than that, but 60% of you guys are right here in the US. Sorry for the rest of the world, but I don't know. Your media is probably better than ours anyway. But anyway, right now we're dealing with this war against ideologies, the war of ideas. My political stance is more right than yours. Well, I don't like your political stance, and I don't have the means to fight your movement. You're right, or you're wrong and I'm right. And it's everyone feels like they're right? And there's these powers. And the thing is, maybe no one is actually right. From a certain point of view, they're right, but they're also wrong, if that makes sense. So one group is viewed as a terrorist, but in their minds, they're freedom fighters. And it's the same thing with the galactic civil war, right? The rebellion are viewed as terrorists, but in their mind, they're freedom fighters. And then when we get to Rogue One, we have actual acts of terror. Look at what Saw Gerrera and his band are a freaking bunch of terrorists, right? If you look at Saw Gerrera, he's running around in caves and in crypts on Jeddah. And how is that any different from what we were told, at least by the media, that Osama bin Laden's running around in these caves in Afghanistan and everywhere else in the Near East, and they're, and he's got his cells and they're running around blowing stuff up all over the place, or a group like ISIS or ISIL or whatever you want to call them. It doesn't matter, or these rebel groups that are supported maybe by the United States. You get what I'm saying, though, is you have all these groups and they say, I'm right, I'm wrong. And they're all, when we look at it, it's like, it's all a big effed up situation. So when we look at Kylo Ren, you say, we're going to see more of his humanity. Why did he turn? Maybe he looked into the Jedi and realized, you know what? The Jedi were wrong. And Uncle Luke, you want to build this back up and you want me to be a part of this? Maybe grandfather was right all along. Maybe there was a reason he wiped out all of the Jedi and joined the Empire, right? We really have to consider that. And we say, no way. But maybe, why did you guys lie to me? And then why was my dad never around and mom was never around? And I'm struggling with all of these things. And here's this dude Snoke whispering in your ear, you're awesome. You're great. Embrace your heritage, right? Embrace your true destiny. Look at this great person that, well, I don't think Snoke would, just my opinion, I don't think Snoke has a high opinion of Vader. But if Snoke sees this is a descendant of the chosen one. This is a descendant of the most powerful Jedi to ever have lived. And if he has a fraction of that power, right, he could be great for my movement. And I liken Kylo Ren to, and I might be a little bit off out there because I'm not an expert in this area, right? But if you understand like the Wahhabi group within Islam, they're the ones that are tearing ish up all over the place, responsible for all of this crazy stuff going on, right? And the Prophet Muhammad, right? Peace be upon him, even though I don't consider myself a Muslim, but I show respect, has a family, right? This dude actually lived I can, if on my channel where I talk more religion, right? If I list like the 10 most important people to have lived up to the Middle Ages, the Prophet Muhammad, would peace be upon him, would be one of those people, and that's more due to the contributions that the Muslim community contributed to the Middle Ages, which sparked the Renaissance. But that's beyond the scope of this channel, even though I'm trying to culture some of you and educate some of you who need it. But my point is that the Prophet Muhammad had descendants. He had a family, right? And what some people don't know is one of his living descendants becomes a Wahhabi, right? And the connection to Star Wars is, think about what this movement, what legitimacy it gives to the movement when we say the Prophet's 20th generation grandson is one of us, right? So we have a direct line to the Prophet himself. So that's why you should join us. And maybe you're not Muslim, maybe that means nothing to you, but when you're a young, impressionable person in that community and you hear that, that is powerful, right? And when you have someone and Kylo Ren walks around and he looks more like Revan to me, but he's in the same position as Vader, and he's mysterious. You don't know anything about him, but you know about Vader, and you see this dude coming down the hall and he's got the same swagger, right? He's 6'5". Vader was probably 6'7", 6'8" in his armor. And you're like, man, we are the new empire, but better. And we got this dude that's like Vader, and he's stopping blaster bolts in midair and can freeze people and all this other stuff. And all they know is that Vader could use the Force, and this dude is a Force prodigy. Never mind the fact that Rey kicked the crap out of him. He is still a prodigy. Rey may be a Rey may be a prodigy as well. And Kylo Ren was having a bad day. He was having a bad moment. His connection to the Force was weakened after he killed his father. That's in the Force Awakens novelization, so I'm not making that up. But you have just added a whole new level to to how badass the First Order is, to people looking on the outside, to people kind of doubting the legitimacy of your movement. And that's where I was going with likening this to terrorism and to events in this day. And if you don't like it, then hell, I don't know, go play make-believe, because Star Wars has always been a bit of a reflection of our reality, right? You even look at the Gulf Wars and look at the Clone Wars. Even though the Clone Wars, the concept came about, back during Vietnam, but at the time that the movies came out, hell, I was serving in the military. I was getting ready to go off and participate in Operation Enduring Freedom, right? And so we had a war that maybe the people in power kind of created out of nowhere. Maybe they were playing both sides, if you want to be a bit of a conspiracy theorist, the same way the Clone Wars happened. And, you got people who were profiting on both sides, regardless of who wins. And in the end, no one won. The Empire emerged, so they were the winners, right? So that's something that we really got to look at. You really got to think about what is Kylo Ren's motivation? What made him turn and join Snoke? And what makes him continue? Why does he want to train? What is driving him, right? What is driving Adam Driver's character? So for me, for the people who really love this channel, this stuff, the character development of Kylo Ren is going to be way more important than what kind of damn helmet he's wearing, and is he going to have a different kind of lightsaber? Is he going to wear armor like Vader? Like, who gives a shit? All right, like that'll be cool, but I care about What is his motivation? What's driving him? And the reason is because here we talk about how to use this stuff, how to look at these movies and start to take these lessons and apply them to your life, how to see them in the real world, because that's what it's really all about. And I can get really deep with that. I can even talk about personal situations that I'm dealing with right now. Like, look at my 100 days of meditation, like something I posted just this morning. I can tell you something from a Star Wars movie that, and the lesson from it that will apply to a situation I'm dealing with right now, right? So I'm not just talking a bunch of bullshit when I say like real life Jedi stuff. Like, that is real. That is real. That's why the banner says pop culture references to teach real life lessons. So that's all I'm gonna say for this one, because I talked much longer than I didn't think I would be able to stretch out this little short thing into like this teaching moment. But that's how much I love to share with you guys, how much I love the richness that Star Wars is. And you know what? It's basically what I studied in college, right? I got a degree in religion, the religion of Star Wars. And, you know, if I ever decide to go back and finish my master's, maybe, you know, I might try to find some way to write a dissertation or thesis about Star Wars. And speaking of which, I kind of started a nice little dissertation in my little speculation video on how Rey could have possibly turned Kylo Ren to the dark side. And it's a discussion of the reverse of the hero's journey. So the journey of how the villain doesn't embrace his path and becomes the tyrant, which is something I'm really hoping to see in episode 8. But I want to hear from all of you. What do you think about these statements that that Adam Driver made in his interview with Larry King? And what are you most looking forward to seeing from the Kylo Ren character in episode 8? And we'll speculate even into episode 9. So let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll be checking back to see what you all have to say. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and click on that subscribe button so that you can take your first steps towards becoming an urban acolyte. Go ahead and make the commitment to using your love for Star Wars to help you make positive changes in your life and in the lives around you. Make sure to continue to support the channel. Check out some of my other recent videos and be easy. But yeah, that's all I've got for this one. So thanks for watching. Y'all keep on breathing, and may the force of others be with you always.